The leather strap cracked across Hayes's back with a sound like splitting wood. She didn't scream anymore. Screaming only made Gideon angrier, made his fists heavier, made the beatings last longer. Instead, she pressed her cheek against the sun-warmed porch boards and counted. 1, 2, 3. The Arizona dust tasted like copper and shame. Through the haze of pain, she heard boots, heavy boots that didn't belong to Gideon. Boots that stopped at the edge of the porch with the deliberate weight of a man who'd made a decision. That's enough. The voice cut through the morning heat like a winter wind, turned her head just enough to see him through the blood and tears. Tall, dusty trail coat hanging open over a dark vest, wide-brimmed hat casting his face in shadow except for the hard line of his jaw and eyes the color of storm clouds. His right hand rested on the handle of a Colt revolver, with the easy familiarity of someone who'd used it more times than he cared to remember. Before we find out what happens next, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now. Whether it's sunrise in Tokyo, midnight in London, or afternoon in Brazil, I want to know where in the world you are. Now, back to the story. Gideon straightened up, the strap still dangling from his meaty fist. His face was red with whiskey and rage, sweat staining the armpits of his shirt even though the sun had barely cleared Redemption Ridge. "This ain't your business, stranger." The man on the porch didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there like a thunderhead building on the horizon. "I'm making it my business." Something in his voice made breath catch. It wasn't loud, it wasn't threatening, it was certain. The kind of certainty that came from a man who'd walked through hell and decided he wasn't going back. Gideon took a step forward, puffing his chest. "You know who I am. I own this land, I own this girl's debt, I own. You don't own anything but a grave if you raise that strap again." Now the stranger's hand moved just slightly, fingers brushing the pistol grip. Not drawing, just reminding. Heart hammered against the porch boards. 3 years. 1,095 days of beatings, starvation, humiliation. And now this. A stranger, standing between her and the monster who'd stolen her life. Gideon's eyes darted to the Winchester rifle leaning against the doorframe 20 feet away. The stranger saw it too. "Don't." One word, that's all it took. Gideon froze. His face went from red to purple to white in the span of a heartbeat. Behind him, through the open door, could see watching from the shadows of the kitchen, Gideon's real daughter, the one who slept in old bedroom while rotted in the storage room. Eyes were wide, not with fear but with something worse. Excitement. Like she was watching a show. The stranger stepped onto the porch, his boots creaking the old boards. "What's your name, girl?" His voice had softened, but his eyes stayed locked on Gideon. She whispered. Her throat was so dry the word barely came out. "Hayes, Hayes," he repeated like he was committing it to memory. "My name's Tobias, and I think you and I need to have a conversation about your situation here." Gideon laughed. It was an ugly sound full of meanness. Her situation. "She owes me 3 years of room and board. Her mama died and left her with nothing. I took her in out of the goodness of my—" "Shut your mouth." Tobias's words hit like a slap. Gideon actually stumbled back a step. Had never seen anyone make Gideon retreat, not the sheriff, not the neighboring ranchers, not the preacher. Nobody. Tobias crouched down beside her, his storm cloud eyes finally leaving Gideon to focus on her face. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the silver threading through his dark hair. He looked about 40. Hard 40. The kind of hard that came from loss. "Can you stand?" he asked quietly. Tried. Her legs shook. Her back screamed where the strap had opened old wounds. She made it halfway up before her knees buckled. Tobias caught her with one arm, steady as an oak tree. "I've got you." And for the first time in 3 years believed someone actually did. "You can't just take her," Gideon sputtered, finding his voice again. "She's legally bound to work off her debt." "I've got papers." "Then let's go see Sheriff Monroe about those papers," Tobias said, helping to her feet. "Right now." The color drained from Gideon's face again. "Monroe's out of town, won't be back till—" "I know, I rode in with him this morning. He's at the jail right now, waiting for us." Gideon's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. Felt hope crack open in her chest, fragile and terrifying, but there. Tobias kept one arm around her shoulders as he guided her down the porch steps. Everyone had known. For 3 years, everyone had known what Gideon did to her, and no one had stopped it, until now. "You'll regret this," Gideon called after them, voice shaking with rage. "You're making an enemy of the wrong man." Tobias didn't turn around. "I've made enemies of better men than you. Somehow I'm still here." They walked toward the dusty road that led to Redemption Creek. Bare feet left small prints in the red dirt. She'd lost her shoes weeks ago, another one of Gideon's punishments. That's when they heard the horse, galloping hard from behind. Heart dropped. "Run," she gasped. "He's coming, he's going to." "Easy." Tobias's voice was calm as he turned to face the approaching rider. His hand dropped to his pistol, not drawing it, not yet, but ready. Gideon thundered up on his big roan stallion, the Winchester rifle now cradled in his arms. He pulled the horse to a rearing stop 20 feet away, dust billowing around him like a devil's entrance. "I gave you a chance to walk away, stranger," Gideon said, leveling the rifle. "Now you're gonna learn what happens to people who interfere with my business." Felt Tobias's body shift, positioning himself between her and the rifle. "You pull that trigger," Tobias said quietly, "and you better make sure I'm dead, because if I'm not, you will be." Big talk from a man staring down a Winchester. Gideon's finger moved to the trigger. Time slowed. Saw Gideon's finger tighten. Saw Tobias's hand blur toward his pistol. Saw the morning sun catch the metal of both guns. Then a voice rang out from the rocks. "Gideon, you lower that rifle or I'll drop you where you sit." Sheriff Monroe stepped out from behind a boulder, his own rifle aimed steady at Gideon's chest. He was a lean man in his 50s, with a gray mustache and eyes that had seen too much to be fooled anymore. "What the hell, Monroe?" Gideon sputtered. The Winchester wavering. "This is a private matter between me and this drifter." "It stopped being private when you pulled a gun on a man in broad daylight," Monroe said, walking closer. "Now I'm gonna ask you one more time. Lower the rifle." For a heartbeat, Marlena thought Gideon might actually shoot. Then slowly, he lowered the Winchester. "Thank you," Monroe said, not lowering his own rifle. "Now, Tobias here tells me we need to have a look at some papers you've got regarding Marlena Hayes. Debt bondage papers, specifically." "It's all legal," Gideon said quickly, too quickly. "Her mama died owing me money. The girl's working it off. That's the law." Monroe's mustache twitched. "See, that's interesting, because I pulled the county records this morning, and according to those records, Margaret Hayes, Marlena's mama, she didn't owe you a penny when she died." Gideon's face went rigid. "In fact," Monroe continued, "this ranch, the Holloway Ranch, it's not the Holloway Ranch at all. It's the Hayes Ranch, always has been. Margaret's father, Samuel Hayes, left this land to his daughter in a will that specifies it can only pass to her blood heirs." The world stopped spinning. Marlena's ears rang. "You married Margaret Hayes, Gideon, but you never owned this land. And when she died, it passed to her daughter, to Marlena. You've been squatting on this girl's property, beating her on her own land." Gideon's face went through every shade of red. "That's a lie I've got." "You've got forged papers," Monroe interrupted. "The document you filed claiming Margaret's debt to you, the signature doesn't match any of Margaret's legal signatures. You faked it." Silence, the kind of silence that comes right before a lightning strike. Marlena's legs gave out. She sank to her knees in the red dirt, the truth crashing over her like a flash flood. The ranch was hers. The land Mama had loved, all of it, hers, and Gideon had stolen it. Stolen 3 years of her life. Tobias crouched beside her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "You're going to be okay, I promise you that." Sheriff Monroe stepped closer to Gideon. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to ride back to that ranch and pack your things. You and Cassidy both. You've got until sundown to clear out. Any wages you owe Marlena for 3 years of work, about $500, you're going to pay. And if I ever hear you've come within 10 miles of this girl again, I'll arrest you for assault, fraud, and attempted murder." "This is insane," Gideon hissed, but he was already turning his horse around, already beaten. Monroe wasn't finished. "And Gideon, I've sent word to the territorial marshal. He's gonna want to talk to you about some irregularities in your cattle records. Seems like some folks have been losing steers and you've been gaining them." Gideon's face went pale. Without another word, he spurred his horse back toward the ranch at a gallop. Marlena watched him go, that tiny flame of hope growing into something bigger, something that felt like sunlight. Tobias helped her stand. "Can you walk back or should I carry you?" "I can walk." Her voice was stronger now. "I want to walk on my own land." Sheriff Monroe smiled. "Your mama would be proud of you, Marlena. She was a good woman." They walked back to the ranch together. The sun was high now, but Marlena didn't feel the heat. She felt free. When they crested the rise and saw the ranch spread out below, she stopped, really looked at it for the first time in 3 years. The barn needed paint. The fence line was sagging. The vegetable garden Mama had loved was overrun with weeds. But it was beautiful, it was home. Gideon was already loading a wagon, Cassidy crying on the porch as she threw belongings into a trunk. The ranch hand stood awkwardly by the bunkhouse, unsure what to do. Sheriff Monroe rode ahead to supervise the eviction. Tobias stayed beside Marlena. "What will you do now?" he asked quietly. She looked up at him, this stranger who'd ridden into her hell and pulled her out. "I don't know. I've never run a ranch by myself." "You're not by yourself," he gestured to the ranch hands. "Those men worked for your mama. They'll work for you if you ask them." He hesitated. "And I could stay on for a while, help you get things in order, if you want." Marlena's throat tightened. "Why would you do that?" Tobias looked out at the desert, at the mountains beyond. "I've been drifting for 5 years, ever since I lost my daughter, lost my wife, lost everything that mattered." He looked back at her. "Maybe I'm tired of drifting." Something passed between them. An understanding. Two broken people standing in the wreckage of their lives, deciding whether to rebuild. "I'd like that," Marlena said. "I'd like that very much." By sundown, Gideon and Cassidy were gone. The wagon disappeared down the road toward Redemption Creek, taking nothing but their shame. Sheriff Monroe stayed for dinner, beans and cornbread that Marlena made in her own kitchen for the first time in 3 years. The ranch hand sat at the table with her, treated her like the owner she was, called her Miss Hayes. It felt like stepping into a dream. After dinner, Marlena stood on the porch, her porch, and watched the stars come out. Tobias leaned against the porch rail beside her. "Thank you," she said finally, "for everything." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You saved my life." Tobias was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I had a daughter once. Her name was Sarah, house fire. I was out chasing a bounty, came home to ashes." His voice cracked. "She was 11. "I'm sorry." "Me too." They stood in silence, the desert night wrapping around them. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. "What was she like?" Marlena asked softly. Tobias's lips curved into the smallest smile. "Fierce, stubborn, used to follow me everywhere, asking a million questions." He laughed quietly. "She would have liked you." "Why?" "Because you're a fighter. You survived 3 years of hell and you're still standing, still have kindness in your eyes. That takes strength." Marlena felt tears prick her eyes. Good tears, the kind that came from healing. "Will you really stay?" she asked. "Help me fix this place." Tobias nodded. "Long as you need me." "I might need you for a while." "Then I'll be here for a while." When Marlena finally went inside to sleep, in her real bedroom, with the window facing Redemption Ridge, she felt something she hadn't felt in 1,095 days. Safe. The next morning, Marlena woke to the sound of hammering. She stepped onto the porch to see Tobias already working on the sagging fence line. He looked up when he saw her, smiled, and went back to work. That became their rhythm. Tobias taught her to shoot, not the desperate life-or-death shooting she'd done with the deputy, but real marksmanship. How to breathe, how to aim, how to make every bullet count. You need to protect what's yours now, he said, adjusting her stance. Nobody's going to do it for you. She learned to ride better, to read the weather, to manage the ranch hands. Luther, the old cook, showed her mama's recipes she'd forgotten. Young Tom Pritchard taught her how to fix the irrigation system. Sam McCall showed her the account books and how to track expenses. And Tobias was there for all of it, not taking over, not rescuing her, just standing beside her while she learned to be strong. One evening, 3 weeks after Gideon left, they were mending fence together when a thunderstorm rolled in fast. They ran for the barn, laughing as the rain hit, and stood in the doorway watching the lightning crack across Redemption Ridge. I forgot what laughing felt like, Marlena said quietly. Tobias looked at her, rainwater dripping from his hat. Me too. Their eyes met, something shifted, something that had been growing since that first day on the porch, but neither spoke it, not yet. The weeks turned into months. The barn got fresh paint, Marlena chose the color. The vegetable garden bloomed again, the fence stood straight, the cattle thrived. And every night they sat on the porch and talked, about everything, about nothing, about the life they were building together, even if neither would admit that's what they were doing. 6 months after the day Tobias walked through the door, Marlena stepped onto the porch with her morning coffee. The ranch had transformed. It was alive again. Tobias was working with the horses in the corral. He'd stayed true to his word, never drifting on. He looked up and caught her watching, smiled. He finished with the horse and walked over, dust on his boots. "Morning, boss." She rolled her eyes. "I told you not to call me that." "Marlena," he said more quietly, "I need to tell you something." Her heart skipped. "When I rode into town 6 months ago, I was planning to keep moving. Then I saw you on that porch and everything changed." He took off his hat, turned it in his hands. "I told myself I was staying to help you, and that was true, but it wasn't the whole truth." He stepped closer. "The whole truth is I'm in love with you, Marlena Hayes. Have been since that first day, and I need to know if there's any chance you might feel the same way." Marlena set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. "You love me?" "Yes," no hesitation. "I know I'm older. I know I come with ghosts. I know you might not." She kissed him, stepped forward and kissed him right there on the porch in the morning sunlight. Kissed him with 6 months of unspoken feelings, with gratitude and hope and, yes, love. When they finally pulled apart, Tobias was grinning. "I'm taking that as a yes." "That's a yes," Marlena whispered. "I love you too, Tobias Grayson. You saved my life, and then you gave me a reason to live it." He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "We saved each other." Sheriff Monroe rode up an hour later with news. Gideon Holloway had been arrested in Santa Fe for cattle rustling. He'd spend the next 10 years in territorial prison. "Justice," Monroe said, tipping his hat. "Your mama can rest easy now." That evening, as the sun set in shades of orange and gold, Tobias dropped to one knee on the porch. He pulled out a simple silver ring, nothing fancy but polished to catch the sunset. It had belonged to his mother, he told her later, the only thing that survived the fire. "Marlena Hayes, I came to this ranch a broken man with nothing to offer but a gun and regret. You gave me hope, you gave me purpose, you gave me a reason to stop running." His voice shook slightly. "Will you marry me?" Marlena looked down at this man who'd walked through the door on the worst day of her life and turned it into the first day of something beautiful. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Tobias, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around while she laughed. really laughed. The kind of laugh that came from deep joy, from freedom, from love. The sun dipped below Redemption Ridge, painting the sky in fire. The Hayes ranch settled into evening quiet. 3 years of beatings and abuse had ended the day. A cowboy walked through the door. But the story didn't end with rescue. It ended with love, with healing, with two broken people building something beautiful from the ashes of their pain. Marlena Hayes, owner of the Hayes Ranch, survivor, fighter, stood on her porch with her future husband and looked out at the land her mama had loved. The land that was hers. The life that was hers. And for the first time in so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. Marlena was truly, completely, joyfully free.